Okay. Now scores according to party. Party A. Party A scored 101 to 2. Party AA scored 210. AAC scored 99. ABC 582. ADP 855. APC 298,396. APC 298,396. APGA APGA scored 921. APGA 921. APM 218. APM 218. APP 149. APP 149. BP 44. BP 44. LP 1660. LP 1660. NNPP scored 4044. NNPP 4044. NRM 801. PDP 193978. PDP 193,978 votes. PRP 266. PRP 6266. SDP 81. SDP 81. YPP 355. YPP 355. ZLP 142. 142. Total valid votes. Total valid votes. 502,923. Total valid votes. 502,923. Rejected votes. 16,508. Rejected votes 16,508. Total votes cast 519,431. Total vote casts 519,431. Thank you for the opportunity to present this before you. Cancellation. Within the course of election process, there were some cancellation. These cancellations are presented as follows. Number of polling units affected 167. Number of polling units affected 167. registered voters for the affected PUs 102, 182, 013, 182, 013. Total number of PVCs collected. Total number of PVCs collected 174,862. Total number of PVCs collected 174,862. Thank you for listening.
Stay tuned. Well, we have the results there from Zamfara, which Jide is using, of course, now to update his portal. But before that, let's go back to Port Harcourt in River State and remind you of what happened a couple of moments ago. The state collation officer for the presidential election, Professor Charles Adias, has suspended the further collation of results from the state until further notice. His alleged threats to his life, and has insisted that until Inec takes action with respect to those threats, he will not be proceeding any further. Of course, the collation had already commenced and was going on. In fact, there were two results they were expecting from Obiapo local government and from Degema, which incidentally are the local governments from where Governor Nyesom Wike and his deputy, Dr. Ipalibo Harry Benigo, come from, that were being awaited before this latest development. In spite of appeals from everyone, and a stern warning issued by CP Adeoye, Professor Adia stood his ground that was what was going to happen. Let's listen into CP Adeoye.
In court. I want to request the professor to kindly submit a written complaint to this effect to the Commissioner of Police, River State. Investigation will be launched, and those behind it will be brought to book. I give you my word on that, sir. And while your assignments continue, the Nigeria Police Force guarantees your safety. We will provide adequate security for your movement. We will provide adequate security for your residents. And whoever is stupid enough to attempt anything will pay with their lives. I give you my word. If you wish, try us. That is my word to those behind this blackmail and threats. They have displayed irresponsible ignorance in blaming the professor for non-functioning of beavers. Do they really know how the system works? And I want to request the professor not to be discouraged and not to be deterred in his commitment to national service. Nationalists before you have faced similar travails. And now you are counted among the legends for putting your life on the line in the service of your country. We salute your courage. We want to request, sir, that in the interest of the nation, you complete this process, because if you don't, the national coalition will be held up. And it can spin the entire presidential election itself into jeopardy. It is on this note, sir, that I plead that you kindly complete this process while we guarantee your safety, even after the whole election is over. I urge you kindly reconsider, sir. Any further comments from?
Give us one raise
Good morning, everyone. My name is Omangma Harry, Chairman and Coalition Officer for Young Progressive Party, and also the Secretary of River State Inter-Party Advisory Council. As political party leaders, sir, we condemn in totality the threat to your life. We've been in this hall with you for the past 3 days, and we can attest, one, to your simplicity and the way you handle matter. You have been so neutral in all of this. But why we want to, whilst we condemn the appeal to you, what's the need being here all these days, the night and all that, and we cannot conclude this process? Now you too, you will not be satisfied. You will not be satisfied. You will not be pleased. Yeah, we know you are, but we know that the Nigerian police force will be up to their duty to ensure that you are safe, because they are saddled with the protection of lives and property. That reconsider, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any further comments?
Well, my name is Pastor Kinsley Chukwu, State Collection Agent for PDP. We recall that yesterday I did commend the Commission and indeed also commended you, sir. I had to recall my experience from the distribution stage, witnessed the distribution and also witnessed the entire proceedings here since we started coalition. So I commended you and the entire Commission. Now, we want to plead with you to continue with coalition. We've taken 21 LGAs, just remaining 2. We also condemn whatever threats that has been made to your life. We condemn it in totality. And I'm happy the CP has given every assurance. He spoke yesterday to a very big extent. And today he has also repeated to assure you of his readiness to provide the necessary police protection that you need. So I want to plead with you, sir, that since we have taken 21 years, let's complete it with the remaining one so that we all go. You are doing this for the sake, for the entire country. That is my humble appeal and submission, sir. Thank you.
My name is Dr. Inec. I represent AAC. Sir, I want to make an appeal to you. I want to make an appeal because indeed what you raised is a very sensitive matter, threat to life. But I'll draw your attention to what happened here yesterday. Somebody also was threatened, and the police kind of had to rise up and secure her and brought her to the hall. And then you stabilized everything, and we got through that very ugly incident. So I want to say that in the same fold, you should try and complete the assignment, because this assignment is sensitive. This assignment will affect the nation if it's truncated at this point. We are sure that those who are raising threat to you through anonymous means do not want to be known for what they're doing. So please, sir, do the best you can so we'll have a complete process in River State. Thank you. Any other comments? In the absence of further comments, I want to reemphasize that I still want to adjourn coalitions. Coalitions will be adjourned, like I said, until Inec, indeed represented by the REC, because in the assault I have received for the past 3 days, they have failed to recognize the difference between the scope and the REC of River State. When there are crises in polling units, the attack is on my phone and myself that I'm responsible. When beavers fail to function, the attack is equally on my phone that I am responsible. In fact, I'm responsible for the code errors and the rest of that, or malfunctioning of beavers. And so I believe that if the Inec, represented by Inec, is able to address this misinformation, we can reconsider and reconvey. But for now, coalition is thereby adjourned. Thank you for your time.
Professor Charles Adias, the State Coalition Officer for the presidential election in Rivers State. There earlier on today, in fact, just about an hour or so ago, withdrawing from the coalition exercise, suspending the exercise until further notice because of threats to his life.
And he did say that, if Inec can address some of the misinformation, then, they can see the process continue and conclude. Indeed. Well, we have more news coming in on the second, on the hour. The Nigerian Supreme Council for Islamic Affairs, NSCIA, they're cautioning political leaders and actors against making provocative and unguarded statements, which they say could drag the country into unnecessary conflict. While reckless statements from inconsequential individuals can be easily ignored, they're saying this is not so for of those from respected political and religious leaders. Quote, it is important that patriotic and well-meaning Nigerian leaders should support unrelenting adherence to process and procedure in the ongoing electoral process. This is because any inclination to unprocedural decision or action at this critical time is a direct call for anarchy, which will not yield any positive outcome to the nation. While the NSCIA counsels the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, to remain undistracted and committed to its duty until it discharges it to its logical conclusion, is asking all Nigerians, particularly Muslims, that no matter the level of provocation from certain quarters, to remain calm and prayerful.
That is coming as if on cue. Very important at this point. Live pictures out of the International Conference Center in Abuja, venue of the National Coalition Center, which we're still keeping our eyes on in Abuja. We expect that the INEC National Chairman and his commissioners will be there at a point in time. There you have it. We're still expecting the commencement of proceedings there. Our eyes are still there. And once that begins to happen, or once that's set to happen, we will let you know.
It's 7 minutes to what?
7 minutes
now.
6 minutes to so perhaps we've got a couple of minutes to allow Jide to update us on what we're having. I see that the horses have changed position. The horse that was in the lead is still in the lead, but it's moved further ahead. What's the situation?
Larry, there are three ways to look at this situation. The first is to look at what is going on in the states. The second is to look at what's going on in the regions. And the third is what do the numbers mean? The first, the state perspective. As at this moment, we have 24 results out of 36. 24 including Abuja out of 36. The NNPP has won 1 state. The Labour Party has won 5 states. The APC has won 8 states. The PDP has won 10 states. Just on the state-by-state perspective. Let's look at what is going on the regional perspective. In the North Central, we are still expecting 3 results out of the 6 states. We're expecting results from Plateau State, Niger State, and Kogi State. In the Northeast, we're expecting 2 more results out of the 6 results from the Northeast. We're expecting results from Borno and Taraba States. In the Southeast, we're expecting 4 results out of 5. We're expecting results from Abia, Anambra, Ebonyi, and Imo States. And in the South-South, we are still expecting 3 results out of the 6 states. We're expecting results from Rivers, Delta, and Akwa Ibom. Millicent, there are two zones that we've gotten complete results from, the Northwest Ayo and the Southwest. Why are these two zones important? For two reasons. The first is the Northwest has the highest number of PVCs in Nigeria, 21 million, and we've gotten all results from the Northwest. Second, we have all the PDP, 2.3 million votes. In simple terms, the APC has won the Northwest. In the Southwest, the APC, 9.3 million votes, the PDP, 941,000 votes. In simple terms, the APC has won the Southwest. The third and most important point, what do all these regions and states and all these statistics mean? It means based on the 24 states we have the results, the APC is close to the 7 million mark, 6.8 million votes. The PDP, second, distant second right now, 5.3 million votes. The Labour Party, 3.1 million votes, and the NNPP, 1.4 million votes. For viewers at home, what do all these mean? It simply means the APC is in the lead with a margin over the PDP with 1.5 million votes. Wow. But again, we're still expecting 12 more states. That is the situation at the moment. All the results from the Northwest, we've seen a winner. All the results from the Southwest, we've seen a winner. We're expecting 12 more states. However, the APC has a margin of lead over the PDP of approximately 1.5 million votes. The question is, will the PDP be able to catch up in these 12 states? Will the Labour Party be able to catch up in these 12 states? Will the NNPP be able to pull surprises in these 12 states? Hopefully we'll find out before the end of today.
Indeed.
Definitely we will find out. Hopefully who will win? I guess that's another thing. We most certainly will. As soon as the National Coalition Center opens formally, information that, now this is hopefully, information available to us says that the floor will open again.
At noon.
At noon,
indeed.
and that's
yeah,
2 minutes
so
away.
That's about 2 minutes or so. So we're counting down to that. We're expecting them any moment from now. But Gina is giving us quite a lot of food for thought. So, yeah. I mean, these are results as announced by Inec. Never mind all the discussions we had earlier in the day about process and all of that. These are results that Inec has given us. So, again, one expects that many of the states, because that's something that we also need to emphasize, many of the states that we have results from, they've been announced at the level of the states. The officers there now have to carry those same results and head for this National Coalition Center in Abuja. So in the course of today, many of the states whose results were announced overnight and in the course of this morning will now be making their way towards the National Coalition Center in Abuja to join the queue of states to make presentations to the national chairman of Inec, who is the chief returning officer for the presidential election. So that needs to be separated. The results we have been announced at the state level, but they still need to be submitted at the federal level, if you like, at the National Coalition Center for the purposes of receipt and possible review before a final declaration is made at this point in time. But there you still have it, the live pictures from the National Coalition Center, which is at the International Conference Center in Abuja. Some activity beginning to show up on the days. I don't know how much of activity that is. A test of microphones and so on, possibly as officials cross the T's and dot the I's ahead of the formal start.
It'll also be good to for Inec to take some of the counsel that our guests have put forward this morning so far, talking along the line of calming tensions, calming people's tempers, and, generally saying, look, guys, we need to keep Nigeria united, we need to keep Nigeria peaceful. so that we can have faith enough for progress.
And Ayo, do you think there was sort of a foresight? Because you remember the Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, INEC chairman, had said we would have two centres: one, collation proper; the second, to address any issues.
Oh yes, I think it was only sensible because from Sunday, even from Saturday, we've been having those issues come up. For instance, there are those some have dug up, the place where he affirmed that the IRF will be populated real time. Unfortunately,
that has not happened.
That has not happened. So he had spoken to that one. He needs to speak to that one to calm all of the nerves. But it's also important, some of the issues that I think Dr. Oluwatola mentioned earlier, that look, the political parties themselves, in the interest of Nigeria, this is not in the interest of any political party and all of that. It's in the interest of Nigeria. This is the only country we have. We have to emphasize that it's the only country we have. This is the only process for now that we have chosen to select our leaders. Frauds, certainly. Faulty, yes. But for now, this is all the process we have. So as a people, we have to join hands and make it work whichever way it is for us all.
Yes, you're right. Whoever wins, we can see the horse that is in the lead. We don't know who will win. I've looked at the parameters: the northwest, the southwest, and again, for me, that historical trend, Kwara State. But perhaps the greatest insight from today's data is for whoever candidate that emerges or that is declared president, is that the fact is that the candidate that is in the lead at the moment has 6.8 million votes. If you add the scores of the other three candidates, 9.9 million votes. And so whoever wins should celebrate with cautious optimism. It should know that you might be declared president, but it is the people that won. In other words, majority of the people are saying.
Okay, just a moment. I understand that they're going live to Abuja. Let's listen in.
And what we want to do is that when we start the collation, we are going to go all through. So we want to have at least 10 states before we proceed. So based on that, and based on the fact that we have around 5-6 states now, we have decided that the collation will commence at 2 p.m. So I want to apologize to you that we are not going to commence at the time we say we are going to commence. We are going to commence at 2 p.m. By 2 p.m., we are confident that we will have more than 10 states of the Federation. As presently, we have around 5 of them, and 3 have been processed. So by 2 p.m., we are confident that all the other states will have been processed, and then we'll just go all through and run through the process and see how far we can go today. So let me once again apologize to you that we are going to start at 2 p.m. Thank you.
The INEC National Commissioner for Voter Education and Publicity, Mr. Festus Okoye, announcing that a third postponement to the start of collation. First, it was supposed to kick off at 11, then it got postponed to 12, and now he's just announced that it's been pushed further until 2 p.m. Today, later on in the afternoon today, when INEC is hoping that it will have at the very minimum 10 states on the queue to submit their results at that time. So I guess part of the reason for this is logistics, so that the situation is smoother, that we can have more results. Hopefully, as Ayo and I were talking about a bit earlier, that hopefully that this process can be concluded today, but that is only our own hope.
No, but you said it since, I think it was yesterday. You already said, give or take, Wednesday.
Wednesday, yes, I did say that.
That's the advantage of experience.
I did say that, and it is looking that way.
It is looking that way because perhaps even more so because hitherto we'd never had voter population up to 90 million. Now we have more than that. The number of polling units also increased So there is a lot more collation for the electoral officers at the various levels of hierarchy to attend to. So those are the things that we're seeing.
There it is. The lights have gone out at the National Collation Center. So,
Can we also give this to them in terms of, trying to breach that communication gap?
Right.
Which, a lot of our guests have spoken about them, minute by minute information, what's happening, why it's happening.
Yeah, and they came up, although I did hear that it was because Channels Television, them, beamed the searchlight and kept on counting down the minutes.
Channels had to channel the information somehow.
I think before we go any further, Jide, could you conclude your thoughts before I bring in our guest who's just joined us now?
Based on the results that we have at the moment, we're back to where we were in the First Republic, where the candidate that was declared president did not score up to 50% of the votes that were cast in that election. And remember what happened after the candidate got into office. There were lots of challenges. We're at the point right now where the leading candidate is the candidate of the APC, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, has scored 6.8 million votes. Where if you add the votes of the other candidates, people that wanted their candidate to win, we have 9.9 million persons that voted for another person that was not Tinubu. And so he needs to understand that majority, if you look at those numbers, the majority are saying they do not want you. So if the results turn out to still go in your favor, you have huge responsibilities that go beyond what you stated in your manifesto.
I think another thing, Ladi, and I think you are better to speak to this before we go to our guest, or possibly we'll take the Sokoto story, is the fact that for once we need to get to a point, right, where we recognize the place of political party supremacy. This didn't happen beyond the Third Republic. In the First Republic, it was party supremacy. In the Second Republic, it was party supremacy. That's why the president in 1917 and the Second Republic had to have a kitchen cabinet in order to be able to do something real significant. In the Third Republic, the party was supreme. The national chairman of the parties had a lot more to say, had a lot more teeth, so to speak. In this republic, that hasn't really happened much. And it's the same system we've been practicing. The person on the ballot is the party, not the individual.
Not the candidate. The candidate's name is
even though, as you said, it is the candidate that is recognized, for which many people go, and that is a very, very good thing. That's also saying that the electorate and the party and the candidate should recognize that the party is supreme. That's why it's not the candidate's picture on the ballot, but it's that of the party.
Indeed, and speaking of the candidate and pictures, the candidate of the PDP has won the presidential election in Sokoto State. The reports just coming in indicate that the scope in Sokoto, Vice Chancellor of the Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria, Professor Kabir Bala, has announced the results of that election. Let's listen in.
Election was conducted in all the 23 local governments of the states. The summary of the results is as follows. The total number of registered voters is 2,037,024. 2,037,024. Number of accredited voters 619,492. Number of accredited voters 619,492. The votes received by political parties are as follows. Party A, 115. Party A, 115. Party AA, 110. Party AA, 110. Party AAC, 128. Party AAC, 128. Party ADC, 486. Party ADC, 486. Party ADP, 1,105. Party ADP, 1,105. Party APC, 285,444. Party APC, 285,444. Party APGA, 808. Party APGA, 808. Party APM, 273. Party APM, 273. Party APP, 219. Party APP, 219. Party BP, 126. Party BP, 126. Party LP, 6,568. Party LP, 6,568. Party NNPP, 1,300. Party NNPP, 1,300. Party NRM, 687. That's 81. 681. Party NRM, 681. Party PDP, 288,679. Party PDP, 288,679. Party PRP, 324. Party PRP, 324. Party SDP, 120. Party SDP, 120. Party YPP, 175. Party YPP, 175. Party ZLP, 208. Party ZLP, 208. The total valid votes, 586,815. 586,815. Rejected votes, 21,015. Rejected votes, 21,015. Total votes cast, 607,890. Total votes cast, 607,890. That is a summary of the results. 2,894.
the 2023 verdict there from Sokoto State. Professor Kabir Bala, the Vice Chancellor of the Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria, announcing that the candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, had won the presidential election in that state. Let's return to our studios here, and we've been joined by the publisher of the Political Economist, Mr. Ken Ubeche. Ken, morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's now afternoon, but we have been here since morning, so we didn't know when it was afternoon.
I haven't seen the sun.
We haven't seen the sun, so we're not completely aware it's afternoon yet. But it is afternoon. I'm sure you've been following the trends, the themes, the various things that people are talking about. And I guess maybe to just dive you into it or push you into it, whichever you would like. One should begin about asking you of what you make of the electoral process up until the stage that we are now.
Yes, that's where we should be interrogating, especially the media, because I'm more concerned about the role of the media,
absolutely,
in the entire process. And the media should be interrogating the process of the elections, not just announcing the outcomes, because outcomes, they take processes, and the electoral system is, I call it the cream of democracy. It's election. It's the creamer, actually. And it's supposed to be a festival, not a war. But how do you arrive at that outcome? Is that outcome predetermined outcome? Is the outcome allowed to happen? Is it organic? Or is it something projected by somebody and they walk to the outcome? That is what the Nigerian media, I think, for now, should be interrogating. And if you ask me, I will say that we have not done enough to bring the electoral actors to account to the Nigerian people. In this instance, the Independent National Electoral Commission, and then the adjunct staff they have hired. What have they done to produce the results that the media is now announcing? And if we begin to interrogate it, we also bring to them, to the fore, the very fact that democracy is governed by nothing but the rule of law, and the elections are governed by rules, laws, and morals. In the instant election that we're talking about, the presidential election and National Assembly elections, to what extent has Inec and all the actors conformed to the manual for this election? Because that's a manual. The Electoral Act 2022 is the manual for this election. And that Electoral Act is for instance now, it has become the ground norm for this particular election until we get another act. But for now, it governs this election. And I will say that the electoral actors have not conformed to the dictates, to the tenets, and the nuggets of the Electoral Act 2022. And that is where the media should begin to point out those things that the various actors have not done. I give you an instance. On the day of election, President Muhammadu Buhari voted in his Daura community. And he showed to the world who he voted for. The Electoral Act in Section 122 talks about the secrecy of the ballot. I'm not supposed to know who Ladi voted for. I shouldn't know who Millicent voted for. And she shouldn't tell me who she voted for. But a sitting president who also signed this law, he signed into law, showcased who he voted for. And I saw another person, some of that top position, doing so. They wanted to patronize their parties, whatever that means, but you don't flout the law. Because if you look at that section 122 of the Electoral Act, it even spells the penalty for doing that. It talks about people, you can't vote by proxy these days, or like in the days of past, where somebody can take the electoral ballot paper and go and complete.
Let's quickly read it. Section 122.
Yes.
Every person in attendance at a polling unit, including every officer charged with the conduct of an election and his or her assistants, and every polling unit, polling agent and candidate in attendance at a polling unit polling station or at the collation center, as the case may be, shall maintain and aid in maintaining the secrecy of the voting. No person, sub 2, in attendance at a polling booth under this section shall, except for some purpose authorized by law, communicate to any person information as to the name or number on the register of any voter who has or has not voted at the place of voting. 3, no person shall interfere with a voter casting his or her vote or by any other means obtain or attempt to obtain in a polling unit information as to the candidate for whom a voter in that place is about to vote for or has voted for. And that's what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Okay.
I shouldn't know who you have voted for,
and
I shouldn't know who you want to vote for.
No person shall communicate at any time to any other person information obtained in a polling unit as to the candidate to whom a voter is about to vote for or has voted for.
The most important part, subsection 4.
Any person acting contrary to the provisions of this section commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a maximum fine of 100,000 naira or imprisonment for a term of 3 months or both. Okay, anyway.
I mean, the point is well. The point is well made. The point is well made. And the point you were making, Ken, is that that's part of the process.
Yes, it's part of the process that we should interrogate, and the media ought to point out these things.
That is very, very strong.
No. We should be. See, media is beyond informing. The role of the media is no longer, it's just beyond informing people. You should interpret it, educate. You should educate the people, and you should also analyze.
We've been doing that, Ken.
Yeah, that's what
you've been watching us since Friday.
No. Of course, this is my darling station. Channels is prima donna as far as I'm concerned in terms of electoral analysis because you are dispassionate. I'm very professional. But I'm saying that beyond that, every other media house should take this manual vis-a-vis the process. Begin to tell the public that this is wrong and this is right. It is when we begin to point out these things that we grow. All of us want to grow electorally.
Sorry, George, my sincere apologies.
Yeah.
Laddie, please don't crucify me for this question. But let me ask Mr. Ubeche. If you find someone doing just this, that you said the president does and a number of people have done, and the police is around and says, we need to enforce this law, and the police begins to pick people who do that at a polling unit, what do you think the consequence would be?
No, there's nothing wrong with a police, but there are some people that are governed by immunity for now. Yeah. For instance, the president has immunity. But I'm saying there are other people who don't have immunity.
That's the point that I'm making.
Yes.
Because someone actually, I think it was an Osazeuzi, said about this thing that you're talking about, that it is one thing to have the law. It's another thing to enforce the law in a way that will be seen to be fair to all concerned. So this is the law. Many people who contravened this law, acted contrary to this law in this process, know themselves as we speak. Now, how do we enforce this aspect of the law without seeming unfair?
Oh, very, very simple. You see, this issue of how to be fair in the eyes of the law is what has kept Nigeria stuttered, manacled to the stump of underdevelopment, even to the stump of primitivity. If you have a law, for crying out loud, we all watched Bill Clinton as a sitting president being interrogated by a Ken Star, being drilled every day. It was a movie for us. That was the most powerful president in the world. But he submitted himself to the law of the land. Everybody in Nigeria should submit himself to the law of the land. If you don't do that, you are not, forget democracy. You are not ready for democracy. It's about the rule of law. It doesn't matter who you are. Now, the president has immunity. Okay, I agree with that. You don't arrest him, he has immunity. But you can investigate somebody who has immunity and keep his file. When he loses that immunity, you can prosecute the person. That's the law. In the case of people that don't have immunity, why didn't the law act, the law enforcers?
I mean, even if we can argue that, in the case of the president or some of the others who indicated who they were voting for, as you said, whatever patronage reasons and so on. I mean, let's put that, and it comes back to the point Ayo made about being fair. The ones who actually showed their ballot papers for the purpose of payment, and, as evidence of payment, I mean, do they also fall under this
Now, that payment is vote buying. Electoral Act, Section 22, you can go there. Section 22 talks about vote buying. Vote buying is an offense under the law. The buyer and the seller are both culpable. Go to Section 22 of the Electoral Act.
We've arrested many sellers, but I'm not aware that, we have arrested many sellers. No. Many buyers, but we have not arrested any sellers. So I guess it goes back to the implementation question that I mentioned.
Let's go to
that is selective enforcement of the law.
Well,
Absolutely.
any person who is in unlawful possession of any voter's card, whether used in the name of any voter or not, or sells or attempts to sell or offers to sell any voter's card, whether issued in the name of any voter or not, or buys or offers to buy any voter's card, whether on his own behalf or on behalf of any other person, commits an offense and is liable on conviction to a fine of not more than 500,000 naira or imprisonment not more than 2 years, or both.
So it's both the seller and the buyer. Like what he said now, we have arrested many buyers. But what about the masquerade selling it?
Yes, the people selling the votes.
Yes, people are selling this vote, and people send them to sell the vote.
It comes back to enforcement in a way that is, in a manner that is fair.
Millicent is our in-house counsel, so at least on this panel. So let us.
The investigations are ongoing to get the sellers, that they were on ground during the elections. We heard from CSO saying that vote buying in this election was low, was minimal.
Yeah, it was lower than it used to be.
Isn't that progress? And this is seeing as
I think it's because of Naira Crunch. There was cash scarcity. Let's not forget that.
We're being told that our democracy is evolving.
Ayo doesn't like that word.
Our democracy is evolving. Let's put that.
Well, you gave me a new word, metamorphosis.
Yes.
It's metamorphosis. Yes, metamorphosis means that you grow from pupa to larva to adult.
Yeah.
There's a graduation in the growth.
Right.
In a positive sense.
Absolutely.
But if you snatch ballot boxes in 1983 or 1982 and you are still snatching it in 2003 or 2019 or 2015 or 2011, is that growth? Is that the metamorphosis we should be celebrating?
On a lighter note, Laddie, the ballot boxes in the 80s were wooden boxes.
They're very difficult to carry. They're very difficult to carry. These other ones are more lightweight. They're much lighter.
Easier to carry even now.
But let's not make light of what is otherwise a very serious situation, because this speaks to what Ken mentioned at the start, which is the issue of process. And if you see incremental change over time, then whether it's evolution you use or metamorphosis you use, you see, growth and development. I just wanted to ask you, Ken, from what you said thus far, but I don't want to take that, simply at face value that we haven't witnessed that incremental value, because if indeed we haven't, then we really have a big problem. But the fact that today we are talking of electronic transmission and the lack thereof, the fact that, there's less voter inducement, that more young people came out to participate in the election, that, the process, while there are parts of it that were not fulfilled, that the process largely was better than we, by the figures we have from the various CSOs and so on, the figures show a substantial, as the lawyers would say, compliance with the processes that were put in place. So, do you agree with that? Did you see that?
Definitely. Well, there is an incremental value added. There's no doubt about that. And I'll take us back to 2007. Remember that the voter register in 1999, then 2003, up until 2007, had names like Michael Jackson, now voter register, Mike Tyson,
yes.
Some exotic names were there, until we introduced the DDC, Direct Data Capture Machine. That helped to clean up the voter register, because that's actually the takeoff point for rigging. When you have a faulty voter register, rigging is as simple as ABC. So we've been able to introduce technology, and we are advancing in that calibration of introduction of technology. From DDC now, we went to card reader, which means on the day of election, a machine had to certify that you are actually the true owner of this card and that this is who you are. Now we are graduated to BVARs, which not only tells that you are the true identity of who you claim, but also is capable of transmitting results. The very fact that we are at the juncture where we are asking why was the result not transmitted real-time online as promised shows that, and these are the questions we didn't ask before because they were not, it was never promised before. That technology was never there before. So it tells you that we have made advancement. But that advancement, we must also make it work. It's not working. Why people, there's a rage out there and anger and red eye everywhere is that they feel that all that were promised were not kept. And it's because of that promise, and because of the infusion of technology into the process that raised the consciousness of a new generation of voters, the younger generation. They now believe that votes will count this time. The same people, the same age bracket, are now go out there on the street. They are raging, they are raving, they are cursing, and they are saying that the votes are not counting after all. After all the promises, after all the infusion of technology, and that is should get us worried, and even much more the Independent National Electoral Commission, because that's the agency of government that is certified, certificated, licensed by law to organize free and fair, credible and verifiable elections. Not just organize elections for us. This election must be free, fair, and must be seen to be free and fair, credible, and must be verifiable. Because you said you will transmit this result, which means every polling unit result will be on your server. Now, when Party A will now tally all that were transmitted by their agents and compare with what was declared at the end of the day. So we have a long journey, actually, in this electoral process. Even if the result comes out tomorrow, on Thursday, or wherever, I'm telling you, it's just the beginning of yet another journey, this time in the direction of the judiciary.
You know, I'd like us to stay with the process, as you talked about it earlier. You cited the process that involves...
Sorry, Ayo, let me just put you on pause there because the results of the election in Imo State has just been sent in to us. The final results indicate that the Labour Party has won the presidential election in Imo State. It polled 352,904 votes to beat all the other parties in the Imo elections. Other parties that were in the elections were the APC, which scored 66,171 votes. The PDP scored 30,044 votes, and the NNPP 1,536 votes. Let me take that again. The Labour Party's presidential candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, has won the presidential election in Imo State. He polled a total of 352,904 votes to beat the presidential candidate of the APC in the election. The presidential candidate of the APC, Bola Tinubu, scored 66,171 votes in Imo State, while the presidential candidate of the PDP, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, scored 30,044 votes in Imo State. The NNPP's Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso scored 1,536 votes. So the results there of the election, the presidential election in Imo State.
More to come. That leaves us with
12 now.
12
I think,
more
sorry, 11 actually.
11
it's 11 states now.
Okay. Well, the votes are counting.
And they are coming.
No, the votes are
coming
coming.
because Ken's contention is that there's contention over whether they are counting.
Yes.
But then we have to count them.
Well, we are not counting, we are announcing.
Exactly. I wanted to, you've spoken to the electorate, the role the electorate needed to play, and you've also brought in the angle of the vote buyer, vote seller, and all of that. My question to you now is, you've spoken about various stakeholders. The voter, which is the electorate, is just one category of stakeholders in the electoral process. Which other ones, other than INEC, have or were supposed to play a role that, as from what you can see, didn't quite play that role, that has also, one way or the other, not made it the way we want it to be?
The political parties ought to play their role in voter education. The media must play its role in educating the public and taking them through the processes before, during, and even after elections. The civil society organizations also should play their role. These are critical stakeholders. But I will still single out the media. That's my own fraternity. And we have not played our role in an excellent manner. And I will say it, I say it with every sense of responsibility, being a stakeholder in the media. And I was telling somebody, a colleague of mine this morning, that the media has become partisan media reporting partisan politics. You can see the fractured media taking sides based on, is it ownership, even ethnic divides? Those things, those primordial sentiments and lines, strictures that govern politics and politicians are beginning to govern the space of the media. And it shouldn't be so. We should be aloof, distant from the politicians, because that's the only way you can actually bring them to account to the public. If you begin to jump into the cesspit with the same person you are supposed to correct, you don't have that moral badge anymore to correct the person. And you won't even see clearly. The media is no longer seeing clearly the way they should see, because the media is also beclouded by who owns us. Who pays the person that pays the piper calls the tune every day and any day. So I think the media should also show themselves as independent media.
Well, that perhaps that's one good thing we can say about that is the media in Nigeria is not owned by just one individual or interest category or group. Government, we have government, spokesperson, media houses. We have individuals who have, media houses, be it broadcast or print. Yeah. And even whether if it's broadcast, it's radio and television. If it's print, it's magazines, it's online, and everyone is online now anyway. In fact, newspaper houses are now having TV platforms, definitely, to themselves. So it's been, should we say, democratized, so to speak. So we can say that if you put out your news here, there will always be someone to check you on this side. Is that a fair way to look at the media, the role of the media?
That is actually what is happening, because you can't see a uniform headline anymore. And also the very fact that, in those days, let me say in the Second Republic, the 1983 election and the rest of them, you don't have too many media platforms. So there wasn't actually real competition. It is what the Daily Times tells you when the election is free and fair that most people believe. It is what NTA tells you. The private media houses have not mushroomed. They were not even born then anyway, because even the Ascending Report was not born. So what I'm saying in a sense is that while we have a potpourri of media with diversity of ideologies and ownership governed by whether it's religious sentiment or whatever sentiment.
So sorry to interrupt you, Ken. The visuals on the screen here are live pictures from Abuja. We understand that there's about to be a joint press conference between the People's Democratic Party and the Labour Party, of course, assumedly about these elections. They're already taking their seats, so perhaps we should just join in and listen.
Okay. Looks like we're just settling down. They're just settling down to the press conference. As soon as they begin, possibly even before the official takeoff, we'll most certainly let you know and probably switch over. While at it, of course, this is where the media that we were talking about picks its news. Okay, so it's one thing to push this out, another thing to report it, and all of that. So looks like okay, they're about to start, but once we have information about the official takeoff of that meeting, we'll definitely let you know. Just go ahead and conclude your thoughts.
Yeah, I was saying that whether we have a portfolio of media houses governed by their various ideologies, what is critical is that people must report professionally. The media is governed by ethics and laws. So why flout the ethics of the profession that you belong just because of your belly or whatever reason that governs your thinking? I think at the end of the day, professionalism must be key, whether it's in the judiciary or in the media or in the profession.
Sometimes they need help, assistance. They have a story, they're chasing it. They meet the authorities. There's no reply. Do they have to wait for a press conference before and they're supposed to reply on time in this era of the internet, social media?
You see, that is one thing that some media sources or the people we report tend to think they will hold us to ransom. If you have your facts, go ahead and report your story. If they have a counter story, let them tell their counter story. It's only when I don't have the facts that I want somebody to confirm. If I give you an opportunity to respond to an inquisition or inquiry I sent to you, and you are stalling on it, I will only state there that I've sent you inquiry, you did not respond. That's also fairness. So if the media has the facts, report the facts that you have. So media should not, we don't have any reason not to be fair. And not being fair is not also being fair to the readers, the electorate, the listeners, the viewers. And we must be fair to all in our reportage, especially when it's about political reporting. Because this is about the life of a nation. This is about leadership of people, communities, states, electoral districts, and then the whole nation. So if you twist the facts just because you want to push a particular narrative, it will come back to haunt you tomorrow. And what has happened over the years now, like what we remind ourselves that all of us still go to the same market today. So the market does not recognize that, oh, you defended this person or you were part of the plot that brought this president in or this governor in or whoever. We all go to the same market. So we suffer the brunt. We bear it together with the general public. So the media owes itself a duty to report factually, balanced reports, and those abide by the ethics that govern the profession of media practice.
I was going to say, so media professionalism, but some people say the kind of politics we play in Nigeria is absolutely different. It's very unique.
It is brazen, it is brutal, and very brutish politics that we play. There's no doubt about that. But, when I used to give an example, in the days of the military, I was a news editor in the days of the military, at least towards the transition of Abacha era to democracy. I was a group news editor of the Defunct Post Express. And I could tell the headlines of other newspapers on a particular story. When a particular press release comes, I know that this is a front page story because it was chasing the agenda that we all have, the whole media and the whole nation, get the military out of the space. Campaign for Democracy, NADECO, Eastern Mandate Union, AEMU, they were making front page stories. Once you get them, it's a front page. 300 university does want Abacha out. It's a front page story. But immediately we enter the arena of democracy. We have achieved that in purpose. The plurality of opinion begin to evolve. People now hold their different opinions because we don't have a common agenda. Now, if the media has a common agenda in having a credible election, it doesn't matter who the candidates are. By saying that the processes and the laws must be, you just follow the process. If we have that as a common agenda, we can do better than we are doing now. And that is the issue. We have different agendas, different, of course, propelled by different purposes and philosophies and ideologies of the different media, and also much more by ownership. Because ownership and patronage are key determinants of where the news will swing. Who owns the media? Is it the politician that owns the media? Because even if it's private sector that owns it, the private sector owner may have liaison with some top politicians who may be the sponsors behind the scene. You don't know. The employers don't know anything about that. The employees don't know about that. but somebody is financing it. That's why I said that he who pays the piper calls the tune. So there will be subtle and nuanced control of your thoughts. Let me put it that way, quote and unquote. You can't control somebody's thought, but then the owner will draw some remarks at the meeting, the general board meetings or whatever meeting you hold, that will put you in check as an editor. That this person, this is where he won't tell you after, I don't use this person's story, but you know where his interest lies. So you protect it.
That is for those who don't tell you. There are some who might just go ahead and tell you. But you've talked about, you've stated the role of political parties in this process. And I'd like you to delve in a little further. Why? Because some of the conversation we've had today, for instance, speaks to the fact that there's a high chance that some political parties didn't quite play their own role. The example is in that preliminary statement put out by Yaga that of the 176,646 polling units, the APC candidate, the PDP candidate had polling agents in 99% of those polling units. The APC candidate has polling agents in 97% of those polling units, and the LP Labour Party has 69%. We don't know for other political parties, and that means that for each of the polling units there ought to have been at least 18 polling agents each. So if that didn't happen, and now of course you know that there's a press conference is about to get underway in Abuja as a result of this whole thing. What's missing there? And do you think if the parties had their agents there and had these results, the contestations would be as significant?
It is very it's poor strategy actually for any political party not to have an agent at any of the polling units, because your agent is your eye and ear. You don't rely on the integrity of Inec officials. They have their business to do. Your business is to also monitor what Inec people are doing and what other agents are doing. And then your agent should be able, of course, your agent should go there with a phone. The law governs that. The law protects you to go there with a phone as an agent and snap that page and send to your party secretariat or whatever server you have created for your party. But if you have if you don't have agents in all the polling units, you are shortchanging yourself. And you are giving leeway to even corrupt INEC officials to monkey around with the results.
Yes, the press conference we mentioned earlier is about getting underway, as you can see on the screen, and the national anthem is being taken now.
Whether we are worried or not, we must still have faith in INEC. There is no alternative to INEC. So once you sign on to contest an election, first trust that is what we are doing. What is there for us that has managed being fatally wounded in Lagos by the Labour Party, fatally not the single honor and pleasure to introduce the Lagos. That is not impossible. They have also National Chairman of the Labour Party, injured in Kano, Comrade Barrister Julius Nabure. The National Chairman of the People's Democratic Party, Senator Dr. Iocha Ayu. The National Chairman of the ADC, Rams, then we have former Governor of Cross River, Governor Hill. We have the BOT Chairman, ADC, we have have the National Organizing Secretary of the Labour Party declared. We have Big Brother here, Chief Reverend. We have the campaign manager of Labour Party Opposition Campaign Council, the Central Organization. We have Chief Dele Momodu, the Director of Strategic Communication for PDP. We have the former Deputy Speaker, former Governor of Imo State, my dear brother, salute you. And then we have Ambassador I now hand over to the distinguished senator, the distinguished members of society, ladies and gentlemen, and highly respected members of the Fourth Estate. We are here this very historic day for the World Press Conference. We are going to start by inviting the man I call the irremovable national chairman of PDP, former president of the Nigerian Senate, founding member of the PDP, former minister of Senator press, all distinguished personalities here. This press conference is very pleasant or happy one for our company. We should be celebrating democracy and not letting the difficulties that are presented to Nigerians and the world today. And therefore, we welcome you to listen to the position of the main political parties that feel all is not right. And without wasting too much time, I'll be calling on the Labour Party.
I'm not joking. I can go
to please bring the position of the two political parties. Thank you.
This is Alpha Beta Lego.
Thank you. Good morning.
Carry your money and carry the thing. His wife will now be Senate President. His son will be governor of Lagos.
Executives and members, all
what has he done?
Press, all of that
you honor for anybody in this country.
We thank you, members of the press, for honoring his part of the short notice. Nigeria held its general election on Saturday, February 28, 2023. And this press is to address the urgent and important issues arising from that exercise. President, Vice President, and National Assembly members. The exercise carried out by the Independent National Election Commission (Inec) is still underway. As we hold this conference, commission is still ongoing. results and foundation of the electoral process, which was communicated by the National Electoral Body, INEC. INEC has announced use of bimodal voters accreditation system papers for the accreditation and voting.
In the end, he went back home all for his doctors.
Electronically transmitted for polling units to INEC servers. INEC by all political parties.
Zero. That's not this.
Well, that's a press conference, the joint press conference of the PDP and the LP holding right there. Unfortunately, as you could see, the details aren't coming to you the way we want it to come. But as soon as we sort that out, we definitely will come back to you. Meanwhile, we're counting down 1 hour, 3 minutes from 2 o'clock when the INEC chairman should open the National Collation Center at the ICC in Abuja, so we can take more reports from all over the place. And we're having this conversation with Mr. Ken Ubeche, who is the editor of the Political Economist. So you were talking about the political parties and where they may have, loosely speaking, compromised their role in the process.
Yeah, shooting themselves in the foot. Like I said, if you don't have enough agents, if you don't have agents in all the polling units, you have already shortchanged yourself because you are banking on the integrity of another person. Which shouldn't be, because politics is about interest. Everybody is there to protect his or her interest. So an agent for Party A will protect the interest of Party A only. Even when you see something going wrong against Party C, it's not morally binding on the person to begin to say, no, why are you doing that to that party? Is it because they don't have an agent? So if any political party that doesn't have agents in all the polling units, whatever happens there, you can't actually, you don't have I won't say locus, but you may not have the arsenal, something in your arsenal to argue your case.
But doesn't that now speak to funding? Why should elections be very expensive?
Well, sometimes, but in the case of democracy and presidential system of democracy, it's usually more expensive than parliamentary system. And the elections is where political parties spend a lot of money, and that's why even the Electoral Act and the Constitution recognize that there must be expenditure during electioneering period, and that those things count, and that's why you hear people say that politics is not for the faint-hearted. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's for the deep pockets, and that's also why they raise fundraiser. Political parties raise funds through fundraisers, through donations from people. Although there's a cap to how much you can spend. But you and I know that
who is monitoring that cap?
Yeah, no, you and I know that's not respected in Nigeria. So people spend as they have it, and people even spend foreign exchange in the local politics.
I remember one of the presidential candidates saying to me that if they wanted to curtail vote buying and selling, the redesign should be of the dollar, not of the naira. That there's no point to redesigning the naira. That it should have been the dollar that should be redesigned.
But you see the justification in that in the man caught in Rivers State.
Yes, with more than $500,000.
People are being caught with the same dollar. So it is actually the currency of the politician. It's not the naira. So that agitation.
Now to speak to the implications of the political parties that do not have. I'm glad that you're speaking to these subheads in further detail, so that the voter, the Nigerian, can understand that, look, whatever perception or realities they're experiencing now, it didn't just come from one source. It came from all of us.
Yes.
It came from the electorate, it came from the political parties, it came from INEC as well. So what should we now be saying to who in order to calm nerves? Because as we speak, we both know tempers are very high. I mean, one of it is what we are seeing in Abuja, where the political parties, some political parties are getting together to collaborate, if I can use the term.
Yeah, my take actually, from if you listen to the very person that has spoken, people are talking about cancellation and the rest of them. Allow this process to terminate, to get to a terminus. That terminus is allowing INEC to announce the final results. Now, if you have a contention, why I'm saying is that because I don't want people to bear arms and march into the streets in the name of defending their votes or protesting the outcome or perceived outcome, because you never can tell if the result is delayed, if it's not coming today or tomorrow or the day after. The protest might even start before the final result comes out. From what you can see from the politicians, they're already agitated, and what this means is that they are sending stimulus to their followers, to their supporters. If our boss can be this angry, we have a justification to bear arms, to go into the streets. And I don't want us to get to that level. We can protest, but protest with civility. Protest using the rule of law. We have seen it in other democracies. When people go, we have seen governors in this country installed by the judiciary. Senators installed by the judiciary. Presidents that their position was shaky, firmed up by the same judiciary. So, and the judiciary has become part of the electoral process in Nigeria. In fact, the Constitution recognizes that. That's why you have tribunal, appeal court, then Supreme Court, the terminus. So allow this process, INEC process, to get to its own terminus. You cannot take it off from there. By that time, you will also have gathered your own facts. Because the law is not moral. Law is not moralistic. It's based on evidence. That's what they call it, law of thought. I'm sure a lawyer. It's evidence-based. So if you don't have evidence and you are raging and raving and then making all the noise, once you don't have the evidence to prove what you have alleged,
it's going to be quite difficult.
It's a no case for you.
Sometimes there's also public policy which the court looks at in making a decision. But then, yes, largely evidence-based.
The other thing, of course, in all of this is that, I think some of our guests in the morning segment alluded to this when we were talking about the process. In the process, there are multiple points, that you go through in the process. But there are also, in that process, safeguards for breaches of the same process. We've been quoting sections of the Electoral Act and so on.
And even the penalties.
And the penalties are also there.
Yes.
So, but then all those will happen only if the process is followed.
Yeah.
Because if you find me doing something that is an obvious breach, but you don't have any, as has just been said, any evidence of that breach beyond you screaming and shouting that I've breached it. Yes. You don't go further to process that my breach, which is by gathering the evidence and all of that, and then presenting it to the authority which is supposed to provide the check and the balance within the process. Then, you yourself, you are breaching the process. I mean, again, I don't know how... I
was going to say, the fact that I saw it or heard it, makes me a witness. So that's one
evidence. Yeah, makes you a witness, but if you are the only one who saw it...
How do I prove that?
How do you prove it? I mean, if there's nobody else...
You can deny
you can witness an event, and you don't have evidence to document that. It's not documented. You only witnessed it. And I usually give an example. As a journalist, and I tell my reporters this, you see, it's always good to document things. Go with a recorder, whatever. These days, you can use your phone to record video-wise or audio. If you don't have that evidence, you can see somebody giving another person bribe. You saw it. They even he thanked you for the bribe. Say, man, I didn't even expect this much. Oh. Thank you very much. It's bribe. You didn't record it. If you go to report it, both of them will agree that they never met.
Yes.
Oh, I never gave and I never received. You are in the lodge. You that reported it, even though you witnessed it, even though it happened. But because you don't have evidence. Law is evidence-based, largely.
They say I'm not a lawyer, Millicent, you are the lawyer. But he who alleges must be the one who proves.
Yes.
So if you claim that something has happened, then, the arbitration authority or the adjudication authority will need to be presented with the evidence of the breach to be able to say, yes, this man is correct, he breached, and these are the penalties as stipulated again by the same process for you. Because there seem to be gaps here. There seem to be quite a number of gaps. While we have been speaking from Saturday night, I know that earlier on Saturday when the election in some of the polling units ended, and people talked about real-time uploading of the results. They expected that, the election finished at 5, by 10 after 5, we should be able to check on IREV, and, the photo of the result sheet should have been there, which was where this crisis, if you want to call it that, began. Because they went there, having returned from the polling booth home, they went to check and it wasn't there, and then people started raising alarm. But slowly, I think from about 10 p.m., 1, 2, 3, and so on. And I think the last time I checked, we were
just now we're about 83,600.
83,600.
So the INEC results, INEC election results.ng website, but on the cvr.inecnigeria.org page, it says 99,541.
Well, I mean, the one that is in the guidelines and so on is IREV. So I mean, if we say
83,835.
So that means now we have, officially crossed the 50% mark. I mean, of what is being of the total that is being expected.
Yes.
Because total being expected is 176,606. Okay, so again, that's gone on. Now, sometimes when people talk about allowing the process to go on, possibly by the time all these results are finally in today, tomorrow, and so on, even if it takes all the way up until Friday, at some point, that IREV will be completely populated.
Definitely.
And the role it was supposed to play,
it will still be
from day one.
From day one, it will still be expected to play. But if nobody goes there to check because it was not there 10, 15 minutes, maybe even a day or 2 or 3 after the process started, you will again be referred back to that process to say, this contention you are having, is it based on the IREV? Is there a discrepancy between what was presented at the National Collation Center and what is on IREV? Which is the question even some of the lawyers on some of the panels we've had have said that, look, you need to establish that, yes, Party A won 5 votes on IREV, but at the announcement point, it won 8 votes. Yeah. So where did the discrepancy come from?
Which speaks to the question that we asked Mr. Ubeche earlier about what role the political parties themselves were supposed to play in all this. Because as you said, the electoral umpire is playing its own role.
Yeah.
But the political parties are supposed to play their own role.
Definitely.
So in that light, speak to what Ladi raised.
Yes, that brings us to the issue of who should change who. If you're a political party and you don't have enough agents in all the polling units, you have to change yourself. Because it is your agent that should ensure that the INEC man, presiding officer, uploads that result. And that result that you're uploading must have your own signature, must have your own buy-in.
Let me just put you on pause there. We are hearing from the Senate, which is Nigeria's upper legislative chamber, which has resumed proceedings. Same with the House of Representatives. But the Senate is urging all political actors, leaders, and all Nigerians to remain calm, law-abiding, and allow the process of collation and announcement of the results of the presidential and National Assembly elections. The upper chamber is making this call following a point of order by a federal lawmaker, Senator Ibrahim Oloriegbe, on the need for calm and abiding with the rule of law on the election process in the just concluded election. Incidentally, I think Senator Oloriegbe is one of those who was a casualty of this. So, I mean, it speaks to back to the issue of the process that you mentioned. There has been a similar statement from the House of Representatives. So, I mean, we're talking more or less about the same thing from the National Assembly. And some of those people were prominent casualties. They lost in this electoral process. Quite a number of prominent people, both in the Senate and in the House, lost. So, again, it goes back to, sorry I caught you short enough to say that, but it goes back to the issue of the process that you were mentioning.
Yes, I was saying that if you don't have your agents there, you have to change yourself already, because your agent ought to be the one supervising whether that document that bears the result of all the parties was uploaded, and whether it is actually reflects the voting pattern in that polling unit. It is not just about uploading. What was uploaded? Is it a mutilated one? Is it a doctored?
Is it legible?
Is it legible? Is it something I can read and I can access and read it? The legibility is also critical, because at the end of the day, I said that this is not the end of this whole show. But I'm appealing, like the Senate said, appealing to Nigerians, be calming down. Let us allow Inec to finish its job. Then the aggrieved, agitated parties can now take it up from there. And the law has made provision for you. You have to go to the tribunal. You have to go to Court of Appeal. You have to go to the Supreme Court. So there are options for you for remediation, assuming that's what you want, or rectification. Like, let me use the words of Chief Olusegun Obasanjo that you used yesterday. There are options for you to rectify what you consider a faulty process. So, but bearing arms and instigating violence is what I preach against, and I'm thoroughly against that.
Well, just to quickly remind you that we announced earlier, and you saw some pictures of that joint press conference by the PDP and the Labour Party. It's still ongoing from what we know. As soon as we have more pictures, we will definitely, better pictures and better audio, we'll definitely come back to you.
Indeed. And we've since been joined by Professor of International Law and Jurisprudence, Joshua Adlobo from Abuja Studios. Prof, good afternoon. Welcome to the program.
The pleasure's in mine. Thank you so much.
Well, what we have been discussing for much of the day, much of yesterday, is that most of those who participated in the process, who are voters and so on, have become sort of like emergency lawyers, because they've had to go back to the Electoral Act 2022, the Nigerian Constitution, the manual for the 2023 elections, the electoral guidelines, and so on, to see exactly who erred and where. But before we get into that and tap into your knowledge and expertise of this, perhaps I should begin by asking you what you make of what has happened thus far.
First and foremost, I need to commend Nigeria for believing in the system. What is the system? In the midst of the crush, or in the midst of uncertainty, a lot of people felt that that election may not hold. Even me as a lawyer and a professor, and also a consultant to Inec, I was still making sure I asked questions to guide against what happened in 2019, when on the day of the election it was postponed because of logistics. But with all the enormous logistic challenge, for Inec to conduct this election in a peaceful manner should be commended. When I say in a peaceful manner, I'm speaking based on my empirical observation from my jurisdiction, that is Benue State, where I participated in the election. And also, for the first time, for people to even exercise their franchise without anybody saying, I'm giving you 10,000, I'm giving you XYZ amount of money. It was a miracle beyond description. As a person that have done much research in electoral jurisprudence in Nigeria, the bane of our polity has been money polity all this while. But it got to a point that money has failed in 2023 general election. Though I'm aware, because I'm involved in both PDP and APC, even I'm APC chieftain, but as an insider, you need to know what is happening in all the parties. And that was even when led to the collapse of PDP in Benue State, because it was only the other party that makes some logistics available in dollar. Why, as I speak up till now, because election require logistics, I was even in Benue till 6 o'clock when I got the invitation to come for this interview. For me to come down, even though I don't have private jet, you have to make, it's also part of logistics. So logistics is part of election. But now, beyond logistics, the fact that you cannot induce that most electorate in Benue, especially or the local government where I monitored the election, people were receiving less than 100 naira. Even though the main political party or stakeholder have XYZ of dollar. But those dollars were not translated to the electorate, but they still believe in change. Now, PDP was working against PDP, and that was what led to the alienation of PDP at the governor, at the senatorial level of incumbent governor. And also, incumbent senator that was former governor, His Excellency Gabriel Susan. It was unprecedented, especially Autumn, that was defeated by his SA on local government and chieftaincy affair. It showed that Nigeria have risen beyond primordial sentiment. So we should applaud what we have achieved so far in this election. If we should look at what has happened in this other state, it go beyond any shortcoming that may be discussed later. And at the same time, we also want to bring to the notice of the Nigeria that in my polling unit, where a party that I was supporting was even leading, but because of difference of 11 votes with the Beavers, the other person protested, and I said, no, how was the 11 votes got in the first place? Who accredited him that was not capturing Beaver? The summary of it was that polling unit result was cancelled. And as God will do it, another polling unit where another party have the highest has also overvoted. And because the agents were there to look at what was in the Beavers result vis-a-vis the declared result, that particular polling unit was also cancelled. I'm speaking based on what happened in Obi local government. I cannot speak on behalf of Oju, even though I'm from Obi Oju Federal Constituency. What am I trying to say in essence? Election where the Godfather, where those that think that they cannot do without them, were suppressed in quote. So what am I trying to say in essence? Nigeria have grown beyond political partisanship to loyalty. From my friend say that they want you to be in the polling unit. That's okay. If it's P2B you want, exercise of your franchise. It's left for you to determine in that polling unit where I come from. P2B won in that election in Obi local government. Ogore to be precise. What am I trying to say? This 2023 election is a watershed in Nigeria electoral jurisprudence, especially within the context of what happened in 2003, where the day to election, name of candidate were changed and all those particular stuff during the time of Obasanjo. And in 2007, recall that the Supreme Court, on that 4:3 ratio, with the case of Buhari vs. Inec, nullified the election because of non-serialization of ballot box, of ballot paper. So what are we trying to say? The Inec, with due respect, even though they may have one shortcoming or lacuna, have really evolved based on our rich electoral jurisprudence. And one of my book, Electoral Jurisprudence in Nigeria, I can say Nigeria has the richest electoral jurisprudence in the world, because even issues that have been settled by the Supreme Court, they still litigate on it. Who is a candidate which has been resolved? Like one of the judges said that he doesn't know that my Benue state has taken over those Anambra in terms of litigation. So,
Prof, let me jump in. Prof,
High Court, and they were able to have everything within those short time, and even on Friday,
Prof, let me interrupt you. Let me interrupt you, Prof. Prof, let me interrupt you and say that basically what you're getting at is that even though there seems to be emphasis on where the shortcomings are, the fact is that in your view, at least from what you saw and observed, the process worked. The process worked.